Okay, a couple of quick comments before we get into the rocket stove, lighting them up and stuff. Advantages of the rocket stove over other approaches are efficiency. It's real easy and simple to use a regular open campfire. If you're out camping, you don't have to carry any equipment and such. The downside to it is with an open campfire, you lose so many of the BTUs that you create. The open fire is roughly 15% or so efficient, meaning 85% of the heat created just drifts off in the wind. A wood stove, like inside a house, can often be 70, even 80% efficient. And so that's a whole lot more efficiency than what you get from an open fire. A rocket stove will run anywhere from 85 to as much as 90% efficient. So very, very little waste. The fuel can be, there's one of the cats. Hey girl. The fuel can be any combustible organic matter. It doesn't matter if it's twigs. It can be buffalo dung, whatever you want to use, as long as it's dry. Don't try it with fresh buffalo dung. Hey baby girl, you gotta be around when the camera's out, don't you? You okay? Okay. Well, back to the rocket stove. Don't get up close to it after I light it. Well, you want up in there, girl? Baby girl wants to be on camera. So, she who must be indulged. Okay, now that she's had her cameo, I guess I'll just get things set up and get this silly thing lit. Okay, this is the rocket stove. He has had one modification to him. When I bought him, that was the extent of it. This piece up here was an extension. I put on with this metal strapping right here. Gave it a much better draw. Makes it a lot more efficient. But going back to what I said about the butane stove and some propane stoves, in fact, you do have to be careful about getting top heavy. You put a heavy kettle or something on top of that, they can get pretty top heavy if you're not careful, give you a real high center of gravity. Basically how he works, just use twigs or leftover scraps of wood into the feed chute there. Underneath the feed chute is just an air intake. Air goes into here, comes up underneath the fuel, burns, and flame and exhaust and heat come out there. Very simple concept in principle, but it works really well if you have enough chimney. This is a Bruntmor brand. It's a pretty old version. The Bruntmors nowadays, they're actually using 4-inch round pipe instead of square. I don't know which is better or worse. One advantage to the round ones, if you got one that was made out of round pipe, I'll throw in a picture here. You can actually coil copper wire around it in a spiral and use it to heat water. Basically wrapping copper tubing around the chimney. That would be hard to do on a square one like this. So, let me get him set up and we'll go from there. In fact, I'll just leave him running. I won't even stop it. Basically, okay, going back to my favorite fire starter here, trioxane. A lot of people will actually load the feed chute, then stick the fire starter through there, and that's what I use. That's what I do when I use the basket for wood pellets. But it works a little quicker if you drop the fire starter straight down in the chimney and then feed the feed chute, as long as your fire starter is adequate. And trioxane is, if nothing else, it is adequate. So, light the trioxane here. It's pretty windy today. And my lighter's dead. There you go. You can see him changing color there. It's hard to see the flame on it, but it is, yeah. Okay, so just drop him down in there. Then you can use, these are just sticks picked up in the yard. You can use scraps of wood, any kind of fuel that will burn that you want to put in there. And once that trioxane gets these little twigs lit, little scrappy piece of bark there, you can already see the heat waves. I don't know if you can on camera, coming out of the chimney. That's all he does. It's pretty simple, but once he gets going, he draws and that chimney will be completely full. It'll be flaming out the top. It is very impressive how much fire you get from those little bits and pieces of fuel. Again, I don't know if you can see those heat waves on camera, but there's already a lot of heat coming off of that. And we're probably not a minute and a half into it. Again, I will do a later little segment on the wood pellet basket. I like it just for convenience sake, but it does take longer to light. I don't know if it's an airflow thing or if it's because it's such a more dense fuel, but it does take more time for the wood pellets to build up a very good flame than it does these scrap sticks. So that's just something to be mindful of. I thought I could see something a second. Every once in a while you can see them leaking out of there already, and it's been 2 or 3 minutes. And that is the extent of it. Get a little water in my frying pan here. Not planning on cooking anything, but throw some water up on top of there. Okay. Check the time. It's right at 26.5 minutes after that I put the water on there. We'll see when he starts to simmer or boil. That's one nice thing about using the wood pellet basket. You don't have to monkey with the fuel the way you do when you're using sticks or scraps of wood. It's just more uniform and consistent. But either works. And these sticks, these are just ones I've picked up out of the yard. You can see that water is simmering already. It's been a minute and a half I put them up there. A little more fuel would actually be a good thing. It would give a higher, hotter flame, but just doing this for demonstration purposes, I don't want to be out here all afternoon with it, quite honestly. But if you packed it more carefully and more densely, you'd have quite a bit more fuel feeding that fire, so you'd have a substantially bigger fire. He's not really drafting to his full ability yet. He's starting to, but he hasn't quite completely caught yet. When it does, it's real easy to tell. Again, as long as you're careful about the height issue, not making it too top heavy, you can put anything you want on that. That is a very stout stove, much more so than some of those others I showed you, the butane stove or the sterno stove. This thing, you could put a Dutch oven on top as long as you've got a stable enough base that it's on. It'll hold pretty much anything you want to put on top of it. So if you wanted to be frying eggs or boiling a pot of water, whatever you want to do with it, it'll hold it, again, as long as your base is level and stable enough. I feel like I'm not giving you a true representation of what it's capable of. Again, if it was packed better and fuller, we'd have much more fire than we do now. What the heck? Let's add some more to him. It'd actually be smarter if those were a little longer, but okay, he's starting to pick up now. Adding that little extra bit of fuel seems to have done the trick. Let me give you a picture of what he's doing there. If he was packed properly, the flame will come completely out of there. He's coming up to the top now. That's a lot of heat coming off of there, but if I'd packed him fully, he would have done better. That's on me. I don't know how much these run. I bought this guy off of a closeout website, woot.com, years ago, when they were just a generic internet closeout site. Now they're actually Amazon's closeout site. They have a lot more variety, but their discounts aren't quite as deep as they used to be. I got this thing 80-90% off, and then added that little bit of extra chimney pipe to it, and I've been real happy with him for over a decade now. Again, Bruntmor brand. Oop, there you can see fire flaming out of there. That goes back to the wind. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, with the air needing to travel this direction, you want this oriented so the wind is coming in a direction so it helps that. Right now the wind is coming this way, and that's part of what's taking away from some of our flame right now. The wind is actually pulling this way instead of feeding him. So that's on me. But that is him.